Good evening and welcome to NTD News. I'm Stephanie Cox. Here are today's top stories. The U.S. will donate an additional 500 million vaccine doses to other countries. President Biden is also committing over $750 million to support delivery and administration of the shots. Doctors who observe adverse reactions to vaccines are supposed to report them to the government. But video shot by a federal worker is raising questions about the number of reactions reported. Brazil's president attended the United Nations Assembly in New York City unvaccinated. The city's mayor previously said he couldn't come, but the UN didn't enforce the mandate. The Senate is taking a vote on whether to fund the government and suspend the debt ceiling. But political tensions are causing obstacles that could result in a government shutdown and an unprecedented economic recession. A warning from Lithuania's defense ministry: toss your Chinese cell phone. A report from its state-run cybersecurity company found Chinese cell phone giant Xiaomi can remotely access phones and censor terms that Beijing doesn't like. President Biden wants to ramp up vaccination rates not only in America, but in other countries as well. He's announcing a new strategy to get more people vaccinated around the world. NTD's Allison Lee has the story.
Good morning, everyone.
Speaking to world leaders at a virtual COVID summit Wednesday, President Biden says that the only way to end the pandemic is to vaccinate the world, and he promises to make the U.S. the arsenal of vaccines. He compares it to America's role in World War II as the arsenal of democracy, a phrase used by then-President Franklin Roosevelt.
The United States is buying another 500 million doses of Pfizer to donate to low- and middle-income countries around the world. This is another 500 million doses that will all be shipped by this time next year.
This brings the total number of donated doses to 1.1 billion. It means that for every vaccine dose administered at home, the U.S. is donating 3 to other countries, and Biden's plan covers more than just vaccine donations.
Today, the United States is also announcing that we're providing an additional $370 million to support administering these shots and delivery globally. And we will be providing more than $380 million to assist in the Global Vaccine Alliance.
Biden also announces a vaccine partnership with the European Union to work more closely on expanding global vaccinations. Another goal is to boost vaccine manufacturing capacity in other countries. And in terms of short-term measures to combat the pandemic, Biden also promises to spend big.
The United States is providing nearly $1.4 billion to reduce COVID-19 deaths and mitigate transmission through bulk oxygen support, expanded testing, and strengthening healthcare systems and more.
Biden also urges wealthy nations to donate rather than sell vaccines to poorer nations. And he adds there should be no political strings attached. Allison Lee, NTD News.
Doctors are supposed to keep track of and report every adverse reaction a patient might have after vaccination. You'd be right to expect their records to be accurate. But a video taken by a purported government whistleblower is putting that total tally in question. NTD's Miguel Moreno brings us more.
Jody O'Malley says she is a registered nurse working in Phoenix, Arizona for the Indian Health Services. It's a branch of the Federal Department of Health and Human Services, or HHS. In this video published by Project Veritas, she secretly captured her co-workers say adverse reactions to COVID-19 vaccines are being neglected.
And how many have you seen that have gotten vaccinated here? That got sick and side effects? A lot. A lot. Have you seen it too? Yeah. Yes. And I'm like, who's writing the VAERS report? Nobody, because it takes over a half an hour to write the damn thing. Right.
VAERS is a federal system doctors use to report post-vaccination adverse reactions. According to the CDC, healthcare providers are required to report to VAERS adverse reactions after COVID-19 vaccination. Here's another instance of a doctor telling O'Malley about coworkers looking the other way.
But how many people are reporting? They are not reporting. Right. Because they want to shove it under the mat.
Neither the Indian Health Service nor HHS have gotten back to us. O'Malley claims that a patient obscured in the video had an adverse reaction, but the case went unreported. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene shared the video on Twitter. She said, "I'm calling for an investigation." And Arizona State Senator Kelly Townsend said she is calling on Arizona Congress members to investigate. Already, people have donated over $400,000 to a fundraiser in support of O'Malley. The fundraiser says O'Malley's salary, health benefits, pension, and career as a nurse are in jeopardy. Project Veritas says they will release part 2 of this COVID vax exposure series on Wednesday. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
The president of Brazil is among the many heads of state visiting New York City this week, but his arrival caused a bit of a stir due to his vaccination status. NTD's Arian Pazdar has the story.
Brazil's president Jair Bolsonaro and New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio had a back and forth these past few days. Bolsonaro had previously said that he would be the last Brazilian to ever get the shot. De Blasio said that Bolsonaro cannot attend the UN Assembly if he's not vaccinated. In the end, Bolsonaro did attend and held an opening speech, as it's tradition for Brazil to kick off the event. New York City is requiring proof of vaccination for most indoor settings. The United Nations headquarters, however, lies in international territory. Last year, the UN agreed to follow New York City guidelines when it comes to containing COVID. But just recently, the UN Secretary General said he cannot tell a head of state that he can't enter the UN just because he's not vaccinated. Now, Bolsonaro attended the assembly without problems, but one incident did raise eyebrows. Brazil's Minister of Tourism posted a picture of them eating pizza outside a New York City establishment, leading people to think they weren't allowed inside because Bolsonaro isn't vaccinated. Some are criticizing Bolsonaro for not being vaccinated and for not locking Brazil down during the pandemic. The country, with over 200 million people, has not seen a single major lockdown since the start of the pandemic. In a recent interview, he explained his decision.
I said that we had to face up to the virus and fight it. And I also said that we had two problems to be addressed simultaneously and with the same responsibility. On the one hand, the virus that could kill, and also unemployment, which can also kill.
He says Brazil is a rather poor country, and if people don't go to work, they can't eat. According to Johns Hopkins, Brazil is the country with the 8th highest number of deaths per 100,000 people. But its neighbor Argentina has almost the same numbers, and Argentina has been under lockdowns ever since the pandemic started. To deal with the dangers of COVID, Bolsonaro believes in early treatment for the virus.
I have come to the conclusion, together with people near me, that hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, if administered early on, could serve the purpose of preventing or curing COVID.
He added that his antibody levels remain high because he had the virus before, so he has no need to get the shot. Arian Pazdar, NTD News, New York.
And while in New York, Brazil's health minister tested positive for the virus. Brazil's government says he's faring well and will remain in isolation in the United States. Other members of the Brazilian delegation in New York tested negative. And members of the military face a possible discharge if they choose not to be vaccinated against the CCP virus. So on Tuesday, 4 Republican senators introduced a bill to ensure those troops would receive an honorable discharge only. NTD's Grace Coulter has the story.
Republican Senators Roger Marshall, Tommy Tuberville, James Lackford, and Ted Cruz introduced the COVID-19 Vaccine Dishonorable Discharge Prevention Act on Tuesday. The bill would ensure that service members who are discharged for choosing not to get the COVID-19 vaccine would receive an honorable discharge only. Although it doesn't stop unvaccinated troops from being discharged, it does soften the blow. The bill states any discharge other than honorable denotes a dereliction of duty or a failure to serve the U.S. and its people. In addition, some discharge statuses, such as bad conduct or dishonorable discharges, would cause a service member to lose a slew of rights, benefits, and honors. The proposed legislation comes after the Pentagon implemented a vaccine mandate in August. Service members may apply for religious and medical exemptions. Several military branches have set deadlines for vaccination. If troops fail to comply, they could be punished by relief of duties or discharge. Senator Marshall, who led in introducing the bill, said in a statement, American heroes should not be treated as felons because of their personal medical choices. The bill comes amid concerns that the military's vaccine mandate could result in a number of troops leaving the service. Grace Coulter, NTD News.
And the French ambassador will return to the U.S. next week. French President Emmanuel Macron reversed his decision to recall the ambassador after speaking with President Biden by phone today. The two leaders plan to meet next month to discuss the submarine deals with Australia. France initially recalled its ambassador after Australia scrapped a multi-billion-dollar deal with France to pursue a submarine contract with the U.S. instead. The Senate will soon vote on a bill to fund the government and suspend the debt ceiling. If it doesn't pass by next week, the government will have to shut down, and an unprecedented financial crisis could hit the U.S. economy. But Republicans are planning to vote no to this bill. Today, they explained why. NTD's Melina Weiskup has more from Washington, D.C.
That government funding bill and the debt ceiling suspension was passed in the Democrat-controlled House last night, but it's unlikely that it will pass the Senate. Republicans are sticking to their guns, saying they will not help the Democrats to raise the debt ceiling. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said that he acknowledges that the debt ceiling must be raised in order to avoid an economic recession, but he was joined by a group of Republicans who explained why they're still opposing it.
They don't just want to raise the debt ceiling in the way that it was traditionally done, where you raise it by a few $100 billion or $1 trillion or some certain number. They want to suspend it. They want to suspend it for the rest of this year and basically for all of next year.
Republicans want Democrats to raise the debt ceiling on their own through budget reconciliation, a process Democrats are already preparing to use for their $3.5 trillion spending plan.
Which requires them to specify a number, which is one of the reasons they're reluctant to do it. They don't want to have a number attached to how much money they're going to spend.
If the Democrats want to go it alone on spending, they're going to have to go it alone on raising the debt ceiling.
But Democrats are not happy about this, expressing that this is an urgent issue that must be dealt with immediately.
Republicans face a choice. Vote yes to pay our bills and keep the government open, or vote no, which means you're okay with default and a government shutdown.
The government funding bill is a must-pass before the end of September to avoid a government shutdown. But Senate Leader Chuck Schumer and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi have combined this necessary bill with a measure to suspend the debt ceiling, which Republicans oppose. Republicans call it a blank check for government spending. But Democrats argue that Republicans did help to accrue some $8 billion in debt under the Trump administration, so they should also bear the burden of raising the debt ceiling.
All that anyone is asking for at this point is to raise the debt limit to cover the obligations from the Trump years.
With or without Republican votes, Congress will have to raise the debt ceiling and fund the government to avoid economic disaster. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas and FBI Director Christopher Wray answered questions from members of Congress today. Mayorkas defended his plan for the southern border, and Wray spoke about the most significant threats Americans are facing today. NTD's Jason Perry has the story.
FBI Director Wray took the time to highlight the growing threat of the Chinese Communist Party.
I believe that that China, and by that I mean the People's Republic of China government, the Chinese Communist Party, not the Chinese people, is that there's no country that represents a more significant counterintelligence threat or a more significant threat to our innovation, our economic security, and our ideas. And that's why, as you heard me say in my opening statement, we're opening a new China counterintelligence investigation about every 12 hours. And I can assure this committee that's not because our agents are looking around for something to do.
Mayorkas said the most significant and persistent terrorism-related threat facing America today stems from homegrown and domestic violent extremists. Congressman Higgins said suspected terrorists crossing the southern border into America pose a more imminent danger, but Wray would not provide the numbers.
Now, you won't tell us, although we're members of Congress, we have the very highest security clearance. We have confidential briefings all the time, but we can't get an answer how many known or suspected terrorists have been detected crossing our southern border. But my sources tell me a conservative estimate is 200. Now, with a percentage of of undetected being 20 to 25%. That means 40 to 50 known terrorists have very likely entered our country through the southern border. And yet my colleagues across the aisle want to talk about, Americans wearing Trump shirts.
Congressman Jimenez asked Mayorkas, of the approximately 1.5 million illegal immigrants who have been apprehended at the southern border, how many have been returned, how many have been detained, and how many have been dispersed. Mayorkas said he'd be happy to provide the details at a later time.
Well, sir, yesterday you were asked exactly the same question and you gave exactly the same answer. You'd think you'd be a little bit better prepared now that you've been asked that question, that now maybe somebody else is going to ask you the same question. You don't have that information?
Oh, Congressman, let me share something with you quite clearly. I work 18 hours a day. Okay, so when I returned from yesterday's hearing, I actually focused on mission. We will get that data both to the senator who posed it yesterday and to you, Congressman, today.
Congresswoman Watson Coleman expressed concerns over how the Haitians at the southern border were being treated.
The images that I saw with regard to what was happening with Border Patrol employees, whipping, I don't care if it were your belt or your reins or your what, but whipping Haitians is unconscionable, unacceptable, un-American. And I know that you're investigating it, but I tell you there's under no circumstances that those individuals are to be able to interact with other human beings ever again.
Congressman John Katko, the top Republican in the House Homeland Security Committee, said on Fox News that lawmakers were briefed Tuesday that 40,000 to 60,000 more Haitians are amassing in Central America and are heading to the southwest border in a caravan. Jason Perry, NTD News.
Thousands of illegal immigrants, along with their encampments, are being cleared from under the bridge in Del Rio. But where exactly are they all going, and how many are being released into the U.S.? One organization says they've had about 1,000 dropped off to them in the last 3 days. NTD's Grace Coulter has the story.
The encampment under the Del Rio International Bridge in Texas is being cleared up of illegal immigrants and shelters. Fox News' Bill Malugin captured this video showing workers taking down several stick huts built by the border crossers. At its peak over the weekend, around 15,000 illegal immigrants were gathered here, most of them Haitian. By Wednesday morning, the number was reduced to around 6,700. Malugin reports that as of 3 p.m., just over 5,300 remain under the bridge. Some migrants are being deported to their home countries. Some are fleeing deportation to Mexico, and others are being processed and released into the United States. But getting a straight answer about the numbers is proving challenging. This video from Epoch Times reporter Charlotte Cuthbertson shows Border Patrol dropping off Haitians at a local NGO after processing them. Cuthbertson reports they're being given food and water and then bussed into the interior of the United States. The operations director for the Valverde Border Humanitarian Coalition says her organization received over 1,000 immigrants from Customs and Border Protection in the last 3 days.
CBP now directly processes at the bridge, and those vans are bringing them directly from the bridge. So not only are we receiving from stations, not only are we receiving from ICE, but we're also receiving from under the bridge.
Head of the National Border Patrol Council, Brendan Judd, said on the Ingram Angle Tuesday night that he estimates very few of the Haitian immigrants will be deported back to Haiti, since he said around 60 to 70% of illegal immigrants apprehended at the border this year have been released. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said Monday that the DHS is working on securing 1 to 3 deportation flights each day. Grace Coulter, NTD News.
And in South Carolina, no one can move a Confederate monument or change the historical name of a street or building without lawmakers' permission. South Carolina passed this Heritage Act in 2000, and the state Supreme Court ruled today that the act is legal. The act prevented local governments from removing Confederate statues following the death of George Floyd last year. And the search for Gabby Petito's fiancé continues. It's been 1 day since the 22-year-old's body was identified. Officials have ruled that Petito was murdered. This doesn't mean her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, is a suspect, but officers are calling him a person of interest. Law enforcement is searching for Laundrie in Florida's Carlton Reserve, a wilderness area in Sarasota County. A commander with the Northport Police Department says their law enforcement partners are motivated and eager to find Laundrie. According to a police spokesperson, they started their search early today through the vast alligator-infested reserve. This place has some 80 miles of hiking trail. And coming up, Louisiana's seafood industry left in shambles after Hurricane Ida hit the Gulf state. We hear how fishers are keeping their heads up despite the destruction. And homeless locals in one California city may earn nearly $25 per hour to help clean their city. The local mayor recently made the announcement. That and more in just a moment on NTD News. Hurricane Ida has ravaged Louisiana's seafood industry. The devastation has cost those businesses even more than Hurricane Katrina, which dealt an over $1 billion blow. NTD's Kevin Hogan has more on how the determined fishers are staying afloat.
Well, this side was the maintenance shop.
These are just a few of the many buildings, docks, and boats that Ida left in shambles after its 150-mile-per-hour winds ripped through Louisiana in late August.
Smashed our buildings, ruined all of our packaging equipment. Our maintenance shop building collapsed completely.
The Category 4 hurricane had a deep impact on the state's $2.4 billion seafood industry, and some of the over 23,000 workers are pledging to come back if another disaster doesn't come and wipe them out.
Half the stuff that was in it is gone because they had pretty high water in here too.
In places like Plaquemines, Lafourche, and Terrebonne parishes, families have kept the trade alive for generations. These oyster farmers, shrimpers, and fishers produce hundreds of tons of seafood for the world every year. But when dealing with the crippling oil spill, fickle markets, and the onslaught of relentless hurricanes, a positive attitude seems to be a prerequisite to stay in business.
It seems like the seafood industry has endless battles, but we still stay resilient. We still keep pushing forward. We keep positive attitudes. And somebody said after the BP oil spill, well, y'all are done. You're doomed. I said, I'm not doomed till the last oyster dies.
Many communities have their work cut out for them as they set out to clean up the wreckage that Ida left behind. But this oyster fisherman says as long as Mother Nature's bounty is out there, they can bounce back. Kevin Hogan, NTD News.
A Silicon Valley city is employing homeless residents in cleanup jobs. The local program aims to provide job training, career planning programs, and housing support. NTD's David Lamb reports.
Participants in San Jose's expanded bridge program will be paid $23 to $24 per hour to clean up the city's litter. And several residents in this area share us their thoughts.
It'll give them a chance and opportunity to gain some structure, and some more comfort because they're stressing every day for everyday meals, for everyday showers.
Yeah, where do I sign up? Yeah, I'd like that.
San Jose Mayor Sam Liccardo expanded the program to fund 100 positions through June 30th, 2023. And they also partnered with the nonprofits Downtown Streets Team and Goodwill Silicon Valley.
Yeah, the Downtown Goodwill's been out here, Homeschool's been out here. They've been really constructive with some of their clients. Other clients decline because their life is not evolved around, well, really, do I need shelter when I already have a tent? I go, of course you're going to need shelter, especially in the wintertime.
And I used to be a bus driver. I retired from bus driving and stuff, and it's still not enough money.
According to a statement by the mayor's office, they serviced over 70 locations, collected and filled over 8,000 bags, removed over 155 tons of debris on the sidewalk and streets.
I've seen people, cleaning up around here. We try to keep our place clean here, Now,
San Jose's minimum wage is $15.45 per hour. There's also another program called Cash for Trash as part of San Jose's Beautify program, where unhoused residents could pick up trash at encampments. In return, they'll get preloaded MasterCards for up to $40 per week. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
The San Francisco airport will become the first U.S. airport to require its employees to be vaccinated. Here's NTD's Eileen Ang with more details.
According to the San Francisco Mayor's office on Tuesday, San Francisco Airport will become the first U.S. airport to require its employees to be vaccinated. The mandate goes into effect immediately.
This is something that would apply to every category of personnel that works on-site at our airport. So this would include airlines, service providers, people who work in the shops and restaurants at the airport. It would also apply to any federal agencies that work at SFO. It would even include construction workers and contractors that are doing a job at the airport.
Before the pandemic, SFO was employing about 46,000 people, but the exact numbers are now unclear. All airport workers will need to be vaccinated or be tested weekly for COVID-19 if exempted. Tenants and contractors will also need to submit status reports until all on-site employees are fully vaccinated.
If exemptions have been granted, then that employer is then responsible to implement a testing protocol for those exempt employees, where those employees would be tested at least once a week using a molecular-based testing methodology. So there are some reporting and tracking requirements that accompany this for the employers.
Travelers are not required to be vaccinated, but they must keep their masks on due to federal mandate.
I feel safer knowing that I'm sitting with people that are vaccinated.
People can be fined for failing to comply. The airport offers free vaccines at the SFO Medical Clinic. Eileen Ang, NTD News, California.
Just ahead, a warning from Lithuania's defense ministry: don't use Chinese cell phones. They report that Chinese cell phone giant Xiaomi can control phones and censor terms that Beijing doesn't like. Find out more here on NTD News.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. This is a battle between truth and deceit. Subscribe today and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
Lithuania's cybersecurity report warns of Chinese cell phone Xiaomi censorship and a similar flaw found in Huawei. The country's national defense says don't buy those Chinese phones. NTD's Tiffany Meyer has more.
Central European country Lithuania is going a step further to counter China's authoritarian regime. The country's defense ministry recommended that consumers avoid buying Chinese mobile phones. And to those who already own them, the minister says throw them away. That's after a government report found the devices had built-in censorship capabilities. Lithuania's state-run cybersecurity body said on Tuesday, flagship phones sold in Europe by China's smartphone giant Xiaomi can censor terms such as Free Tibet, Long Live Taiwan Independence, and Democracy Movement. The report says this capability in a certain Xiaomi model had been turned off for the European Union region, but that it could be turned on remotely at any time. The National Cyber Center says they found the same security flaw in a Huawei phone. However, Huawei's representative denies the accusation. The center's report says Xiaomi's censor list currently includes 449 terms in Chinese and is continuously updated. U.S. regulators are reviewing video conferencing company Zoom's purchase of an American company, citing national security concerns over the company's ties to China. That's according to a letter posted on the Federal Communications Commission, or FCC's website. In July, Zoom reached a $15 billion deal to buy customer service software company Five9. Advisory firm Institutional Shareholder Services warned of risk due to Zoom's substantial operations in China. A group led by the Justice Department is now reviewing the deal. It asked the FCC to put the deal on hold until the review is done. It's also facing mounting privacy and security concerns after research reports revealed in some cases its encryption keys were being transmitted to servers in China. This is the latest move by the U.S. government toward Chinese telecom companies. In recent years, they carried out a campaign to expel the communist regime's ties to the sector in the U.S. Chinese leader Xi Jinping is clamping down on the entertainment industry. More than 700 talent agencies in China have been shut down so far this year. 100+ talent agencies were canceled in June alone. That's according to data from Chinese enterprise information website Tianyanca. Early this month, the China Performance Industry Association released an announcement asking agencies to assume responsibility for the political education and loyalty of artists and to fire those who are not subordinate. The association warned that agencies that didn't comply would be punished. A week later, the association held an online meeting, issuing self-regulation measures to online platforms. The online platforms responded quickly. After the meeting, they jointly issued a statement outlining their self-disciplinary action, saying they would strengthen censorship and encourage people to report. Zheng Qianyuan, director of the Taiwan Policy Research Institute, told the Epoch Times that the purge is all about Chinese leader Xi Jinping cleaning out the Shanghai clique. That's the group of officials who rose to prominence under former CCP leader Jiang Zemin 2 decades ago. Zheng explained that China's entertainment industry has close ties to the CCP. The lucrative industry used to be under the control of Jiang Zemin. Zheng said purging the entertainment industry is a warning from Xi and also a sign of his authority, but that it also raises speculation about the reach of Xi's control. China-based commentator Lu Bai says the CCP's clampdown on the entertainment and other industries aims to divide their assets while the Chinese economy is under strain.
A growing number of global Fortune 500 companies are speeding up their withdrawals from China. South Korea's Samsung Heavy Industries, Japanese electronics giant Toshiba, and Swedish telecom manufacturer Ericsson are closing their branches in China, and that's just in September.
Thousands of Samsung employees gathered at the company's Ningbo plant to protest the factory closure. They held banners saying, "Samsung is my home. I want to work. I need to support my family." South Korean shipbuilder Samsung Heavy Industries, or Samsung Heavy for short, is withdrawing its capital from the plant. According to a South Korean media outlet, the reason behind the move is decreased productivity caused by superannuated factories. Samsung employees blame government policy, saying they suffered the most from major policy changes. In May 2008, then Chinese Communist Party Secretary of Guangdong Province, Wang Yang, proposed an industrial restructuring strategy. He dubbed it "Vacate the Cage and Replace the Bird." meaning to relocate or eliminate certain industries in the region and replace or upgrade others. A document said Ningbo city authorities signed an agreement to reclaim about over 470 hectares of land owned by Samsung Heavy Industries. Mr. Zhang is an employee of Samsung's Ningbo shipyard. He told the Epoch Times Chinese language edition that early last year, workers had heard Ningbo officials were planning to take over the land, adding that they plan to build a chemical zone. Samsung Heavy is one of many in the same situation. More foreign Fortune Global 500 companies are speeding up their withdrawals from China this month. Japanese electronics giant Toshiba and Swedish telecom gear maker Ericsson are also closing their branches in China. According to Japanese outlet Nikkei Asia, Toshiba will shutter its factory in China's northeastern city of Dalian at the end of September. Toshiba Dalian opened in September 1991. The upcoming closure marks its 30th anniversary. Swedish telecom gear maker Ericsson is closing its research and development center in the eastern Nanjing city. According to Chinese financial media company Caixin, Ericsson's second quarter financial report indicates an over 60% drop year-on-year. Amid the consequences of the US-China trade war, coupled with the impact of the pandemic, the global supply chain has seen the importance of disconnecting from the Chinese Communist Party. Chinese financial blogger Financial Cold Eye explains, now it's a major trend for the foreign companies of Fortune Global 500 to move their industrial chains out of China. As for other companies, Japan's Panasonic Group will also close its battery plant in Shanghai, China. And earlier this year, computer hardware company IBM shut down a research institute in Beijing after 25 years in operation. According to a CNBC report from March last year, Apple, Microsoft, and Google plan to move their production lines out of China to other Asian countries. While Nikkei Asia reported that global consumer electronics maker HP, Dell, Microsoft, and Amazon are all looking to shift substantial production capacity out of China.
Shots were fired at a car carrying the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's top aide today. Senior officials are describing it as an assassination attempt. Here are the details.
A volley of at least 10 bullets hit the car near the village of Lesniki, about 3 miles outside the capital, Kiev. Police say the driver was wounded, but the aide, Serhiy Shafir, survived unscathed. A criminal case of premeditated murder has been opened. Shafir is close to the president and leads a group of advisors. Zelensky said he did not know who was behind the attack.
Who's behind this? Frankly, I don't know. What are these powers? It could be internal, maybe external. Saying hello to me with shots from the forest at my friend's car is a weakness. But the response will be strong.
The head of the president's political party has said that Russia could be behind the attack, but the Kremlin said suggestions of Russian involvement have nothing to do with reality. Zelensky, who came to power on a promise to take on the country's oligarchs and fight corruption, is currently in the United States at the UN General Assembly. One of his advisors said the assassination attempt could be a result of the president's fight against oligarchs. Parliament is due this week to debate a presidential law aimed at reducing their influence.
The British government is asking an American fertilizer company for help. Britain is facing food shortages as an effect of rising energy prices. The meat industry needs CO2 derived from fertilizer production, but soaring gas prices have put production on hold. NTD's Patrick Hayden in London has the details.
The British government is securing carbon dioxide or CO2 from an American company. It's to avert shortages of meat, poultry and packaged foods as its energy prices soar. The UK government will financially support the initiative as an exceptional short-term arrangement. The head of the British Meat Processors Association says the government's quick action is welcome.
It had been an absolute disaster. Some of our members were 4 days away from running out of CO2, and that meant that that's what we used for humane slaughter of pigs, and there's not really any alternatives.
American-owned CF Fertilizers produces around 60% of the UK's CO2, which is mostly used by the food sector. The gas is used in various ways, including extending shelf life and slaughtering livestock. CF had to stop fertilizer production last week because of the soaring price of gas.
So you flush the air out of it and you put a mixture of oxygen and CO2 in, which extends the shelf lives.
The government's support for CF fertilizers to produce CO2 will last just 3 weeks. On Wednesday, UK Environment Secretary George Eustace said that the food industry needs to expect a 500% rise in CO2 prices.
We've had 2 or 3 calls this morning from people that haven't been in the market and haven't been sort of supplying it because the price was too low. But they're now saying, well, if the price goes up, we can probably come into the market and sort of supply it. So this may generate a lot more suppliers of CO2 into the marketplace, and that might make the whole supply chain much more resilient.
Alan says he doesn't think the CO2 shortage issue is going to impact food supplies over Christmas, but he did say the major labour and truck driver shortages in the meat industry could still cause problems this holiday season. Patrick Hayden, NTD News.
A magnitude 6.0 earthquake struck Melbourne today. It's one of Australia's biggest quakes on record. It damaged buildings in the country's second largest city and sent tremors throughout neighbouring states. Here are the details.
One of Australia's biggest earthquakes on record struck the state of Victoria on Wednesday. Government agency Geoscience Australia said it registered at a magnitude of 6.0 and that its epicenter was near a rural town northeast of Melbourne. The earthquake caused damage to buildings in the country's second largest city, with rubble blocking one of its main streets. Residents of Melbourne recounted the moment the quake hit.
Very scary. Telling the kids just to get ready to get out in the streets just in case.
I looked outside and from my balcony you could see the other buildings moving as well and the power line shaking.
Tremors could also be felt throughout neighbouring states in cities as far as Adelaide and Sydney. More than half of Australia's population of 25 million live in these affected areas, though no deaths have so far been reported. Prime Minister Scott Morrison, who is currently in Washington, D.C. to meet with U.S. President Joe Biden, spoke to reporters in a news conference.
At this stage, we have had no reports of serious injuries or worse, and that is very good news. It can be a very disturbing event for an earthquake of this nature. They are very rare events in Australia, and as a result, I'm sure people would have been quite distressed and disturbed by that.
The country's Bureau of Meteorology said it had not issued a tsunami threat following the earthquake, which measured higher than the country's deadliest tremor in 1989 that killed 13 people.
Coming up, La Palma residents pack up valuables as lava flows towards the densely populated coast of the Spanish island. We bring you the latest about the volcanic eruption. And Cambodian students design a prototype drone to help people beat traffic and even fight fires. That and more here on NTD News.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm gonna pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Lava continues to pour from the erupting volcano in the Spanish island of La Palma as it moves towards the coastline, destroying everything in its path. NTD's Anna Rodriguez brings us this report.
Unstoppable lava pours for a fourth day on Wednesday from the erupting volcano on the Spanish island of La Palma. Towers of magma burst high into the air, painting the night sky red and spraying fiery debris onto the flanks of the volcano. The Canary Islands Volcanology Institute says the seismic activity intensified Tuesday night and Wednesday morning. After moving downhill across the island's countryside since Sunday's eruption, the lava is gradually closing in on the more densely populated coastline. Authorities warn that as it hits the sea, the molten rock will cool rapidly, creating toxic gases and possible explosions. The green and turquoise tropical paradise landscape turns black and grey as lava blankets houses and fields, destroying everything in its path. 190 houses have been destroyed so far and 6,000 people evacuated. Lorena has lived in La Laguna all her life. Today she races to salvage furniture and electrical appliances from her parents' home.
We are very nervous. We are taking the essentials, mattresses, the fridge, some other things, just to have something. They evacuated us yesterday, but they gave us 2 hours, an hour and a half, to take our essentials.
No fatalities or injuries have been reported. Emergency services say residents should not fear for their safety if they follow recommendations. But officials say danger still lurks days after the volcano first erupted. Several small earthquakes already shook the island of northwest Africa this week. Toxic gases, volcanic ash and acid rain are among the multiple threats. Anna Rodriguez, NTD News.
And in Cambodia, students have designed a drone prototype to help their community. They hope it can eventually be used to beat traffic and fight fires. Ryan Chang reports.
This student in Cambodia is flying through the air, sitting in a school chair strapped to 8 propellers. It's a prototype drone designed to ferry humans and was developed by students at the National Polytechnic Institute of Cambodia on the outskirts of Phnom Penh. Dubbed the NPIC human carrier drone, the drone is in the early stages of development and testing. The prototype can carry just one person weighing 60 kilograms and fly as high as 4 meters for just 10 minutes. Students have taken 3 years and $20,000 to build the drone. They estimate they need at least 2 more years before it's completely ready and fully tested. 21-year-old Lon Van Sith was the pilot. He says he was inspired at first by a desire to beat his city's notorious traffic.
We had this idea that we wanted to solve some problems for our society by making a drone taxi, as well as inventing drones for firefighters to help put out fires. For example, for high-rise buildings that the average fire truck can't reach, this drone could transport the water, or at least it could carry the water hose to very high floors on the building.
The school plans to build a drone prototype focused on fighting fires. That project may cost up to $40,000. They admit the global health crisis has severely delayed testing and development of the original prototype. The university is trying to secure more investment for the project.
5G connected drones are becoming a powerful new tool for emergency services. Known as eyes in the sky, they now make life-saving operations more efficient and less complex. Let's take a look at the details.
Aerial support systems are becoming critical to the safety and efficiency of emergency services. Swiss startup Photokite recently developed 5G-connected drones, calling them the eyes in the sky for rescuers. The company's CEO, Chris McCall, explained that the better data can help inform firefighters' complex decisions.
What we work on is making that aerial information, contextual overhead information, and situational awareness available with as much ease and simplicity as possible.
In just 2 minutes, these Photokite drones can be deployed at the scene of an emergency and assess the site from above. With the low latency and high speed of the 5G network, real-time data is transferred to both first responders at the site and local hospital teams via smart tablets.
Time is of the essence in this space, right? And so the quicker you can digest that information, the quicker you can turn it around into decisions off of that data, the better. This is where it's a particularly good fit with 5G technologies. This is where it's a particularly good fit with Photokite technologies. And so combining the two is just an absolute no-brainer.
According to Photokite, the drone's launch, flight, and landing are fully autonomous, with all manual operations simplified. The system can fly up to 24 hours at a maximum height of over 140 feet. On top of that, each drone carries a built-in thermal imaging camera to gather data beyond human sight, like detecting those injured through clouds of smoke.
Aston Martin has built a little car for the little or not so little James Bond fan in your life. The small electric car is based on the classic DB5 made famous in the Bond film franchise. It has no roof, allowing an adult and child to ride side by side in the vehicle, but it can't be driven on public roads. The car features toy machine gun headlights and a rear smokescreen device that pumps dark smoke through exhaust pipes. Only 125 are being made. They'll sell for about $123,000. The real James Bond Aston Martin DB5 first appeared in the 1964 movie Goldfinger. This junior version is being released to promote the next film in the long-running series No Time to Die. And Los Angeles will have a new Academy Museum of Motion Pictures dedicated to filmmaking by the end of the month. Here's NTD's Eileen Ang with more.
The new Academy Museum of Motion Pictures opens in Los Angeles next week on September 30th. It is the largest establishment dedicated to the art and science of movie making.
The Academy Awards honor individual achievements in filmmaking year by year, but an Academy Museum would honor the arts and sciences of film itself for all time. That was what the founders dared to imagine 92 years ago. And over the course of nearly a century, their vision remained alive through the Academy's members, its management, and its Board of Governors.
Designed by Italian architect Renzo Piano, the 300,000 square foot museum houses exhibitions, galleries, and programs on 3 floors.
Beautiful galleries co-curated by Pedro Almodovar, Spike Lee, a gallery devoted to the history of the Academy Awards, Wizard of Oz, an amazing space where you walk through the making of that movie, costume gallery where you see the most spectacular costumes from some iconic films, Hayao Miyazaki's brilliant exhibition. You will only see it here in America.
The museum consists of 2 buildings that are connected by glass-enclosed bridges. There are also 2 movie theaters inside.
I think they are going to see a lot of films that they know and love, and they're going to discover diverse, interesting new filmmakers. They're going to learn about how movies are made, all of the collaborative arts and sciences that go into making a movie. You're going to learn why what you see on the big screen is what it is, why it's so powerful, why it's so beautiful, why it moves you so much.
Timed admission tickets to the museum are now on sale. Reservations must be made in advance online. Eileen Ang, NTD News, California.
Newly released videos show law enforcement is always ready to rescue by air, land, and sea. Let's check out some of the footage from around the country.
New York State Police shared video of a rescue that took place high atop a mountain in the Adirondacks when an injured hiker was reported stranded. In a joint effort between the State Police Aviation Unit and the Department of Environmental Conservation, a chopper was deployed, and while hovering roughly 75 feet above Crane Mountain, the hiker was plucked from the peak and carried to safety. Over in Maine, a resident called police after a deer spotted in their yard fell into their pool. Concerned that the deer could get caught in the pool's cover, a responding Old Town officer worked quickly to wrangle the panicked animal, which reportedly didn't waste time drying off, instead running off into some nearby woods. Finally, in Colorado, a pair of cops showed impressive delicacy using kid gloves, figuratively, to rescue a kid stuck, literally, in a balcony railing. The officers spoke gently to the toddler who had gotten her head stuck between the bars, keeping her calm while using a tactical entry ram to pry the bars open. It worked, and the little girl was reunited with her mother.
Oh, please don't ever do it again.
The officers then cleverly distracted the toddler with a sticker while checking her for injuries.
Do you feel sick?
No.
You're doing okay?
Yeah.
For Take a Look at This.
You're welcome.
And that's all for today's news. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephanie Cox.